So today we have a distinct honor of hosting a truly transformative figure in Kenya. Yeah, she's a woman who has not only broken barriers, but is actively shaping the future of justice and governance in her nation. That is obviously Kenya, right? Our guest today is Faith Odhiambo, the 51st president of the Law Society of Kenya. That's correct.
Yes.
Her election on February 29, 2024 was a historic event and moment, making her only the second woman in LSK's history to hold this prestigious office. Yeah. With an LLB and LLM in international commercial law from the UK and currently pursuing a PhD, her academic foundation is as robust as her practical experience. She's a seasoned legal professional, having served at the Federation of Women of Lawyers Kenya, that is FIDA, the Competition Authority of Kenya, and as a partner at Ombok and Wood LLP Advocates. And of course, a lecturer at the University of Nairobi. So this is what she's known for. She's known for her direct and assertive communication style and fluent in multiple languages. I'm not sure about that. I'm going to ask you about that. Faith Odhiambo is a voice for justice, constitutionalism, and public accountability. She sees herself as a bridge between the young bar and the senior bar, actively fostering mentorship and unity within the legal profession. I want you at this point to give a round of applause for her, please. I want to start with a confession. I have always wanted you to be on my podcast, Dialogues with Jagero, but nobody has ever given you your contact. I've always looked for it. I've never found it. So I am just chilling in the house, and Brian calls me and tells me that Jagero, there is somebody that you need to have a podcast with. And I'm like, that's very interesting. Who could that be? And it's you. And I'm saying, there is somebody that said that she's a god, but well, I do not pray to her, obviously. She's okay. So I am so honored that you're here today to talk to these wonderful people and to talk about law. So I want to ask you this question. How are you feeling about the state of the country right now?
Well, it's kind of, you're in this chilling moment that you're wondering if we're in our country or we have zapped back in time to when we are fighting for our previous leaders were fighting for multipartyism. We still had the old constitution, the whispering of the head of state's name. It's quite a disturbing position that we are in the nation, because Kenya has been known as the stable nation in the East African community. We've been known to be stellar in terms of exercising democratic rights, our ability to come together irrespective of the challenges. And so to see a situation where we're having abductions in the country, people are disappearing and never being found, where people are being raided in their homes in the middle of the night, that we're playing games of cat and mouse, of looking for people from one police station to another. We are filing more habeas corpus applications than land matters. It's quite saddening that this is the point that we're getting as a nation, that the trust levels are so bad in the country that no one trusts what the head of state is saying. And worse off, trusting our parliamentarians, who ideally are representing our voices in parliament and should be the ones that are the bridge between the people and the executive. That we shouldn't have broken down to this level if the very representatives would actually connect to the people and now help pass that message to the executive. And this situation is becoming worse. It's only escalating. And we're not working towards changing the narrative. And my fear is what happens during the election. That's my greatest fear.
Yeah. There I was talking to a gentleman and he was telling me that, Jagero, I don't understand why Kenyans are jumpy at this moment. I don't know from what the political side is coming from, but he was saying that we have always had this problem as a country. Uh, Back when Moi was ruling this country for 24 years, we have always had riots, we have always had abductions, we've always had these things. When Kibaki took over the presidency in 2002, we immediately plunged into some kind of, riots. And then we had 2007, and then, Raila Odinga joined the fray. And then we had 2013, and then we had 2022. So he's saying that Kenya is a place where people are always not happy with the government. So perhaps right now, do you think that, because from where he's sitting, he's like, this is who we are. Is this really who we are?
I'd say that it's not really who we are.
Yeah.
Kenyans are able to express their dissatisfaction but accept a legal process because everyone goes through elections and there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. And 2017 was a tipping point because people felt cheated. They felt that the legal process failed, and they felt that government machinery was being used to force down a decision on the throats of people, because even the legitimacy of the process then was a big question. But the problem we're having is that when President Ruto came into power, it was like another euphoria moment. Euphoria, why? Is because the young people really rallied behind him, and he came in with the narrative that the poor man's son or the poor mother's son or the chicken seller's son would make it to the presidency. It's not about dynasties. It's not about rich old money. It's about you putting the work, putting yourself out there, and the people would trust in you, that despite all odds, if God is with you, who can be against you?
Yeah.
And with that hope comes a huge responsibility. Because I said the coalition government as well came up with that hope. I think we've never seen Uhuru Park with so much ululation, save for the following year when the new constitution was promulgated. That was the second moment of euphoria in the country. And so that same hope, that same excitement, that people had come together. This is a new government. They've overthrown the dictator. This is a new government. They have overthrown the narrative that only dynasties can get power. And so much responsibility and hope was heaped on this government that I don't think they realized how much people were holding on to hope unto them. And I think they slowly didn't pick up the signs of the unsettlement, how people were unsettled. We started seeing the stories of social media of people sleeping hungry, a grandmother boiling stones for her grandkids, people not going to school or going to school and fainting because they have not eaten anything at home for so long. And high crime rates increasing in the country. There were small pockets of signs that people thought this is just a normal occurrence that the government did not see, were slowly eruptions of failed hopes that had not come to fruition. And with that now comes the element of another finance bill. I think that's when the mountain erupted. People felt enough is enough, that this government is not understanding the challenges that the people are feeling. And yet they fail to see the signs that were glaring in the communities, in the voices of unsettlement, in the anger and the hopes of dreams of people who they thought things would change and are seeing just the same characters. It's just that the dancers have changed. And so I would say that this government needs to rethink itself and pick those signs and think of how can we start mending this divide. Because if we don't start thinking of how can we mend this divide and see the actual problems, as much as they are maybe achieving other secondary aims, social health, care, housing, but if you can't meet the basic of the food, education, which is now become like a basic free primary education, people still have children because they know there's free primary education. All I need to do is struggle to ensure that I put food on the table and I'm able to save for any other necessaries.
Yeah.
But we really need a rethink of how to help the normal man put food on the table and support people in our society. Otherwise, we are slowly going to spiral further into more anarchy.
The problem that I usually have with the rethinking, because when we talk about the rethinking, we are asking the leaders to rethink. But then, and this is the political trauma that I'm seeing in this country, where, for example, the first time I voted was in 2002, the euphoria of Kibaki, and I was still in the village. I didn't even know why I was voting, but we were told that we were supposed to be voting, and it was supposed to be 6 piece, was it? 3 piece. Yeah, those days it was 3 piece. Yeah, and having looked at how this is happening, because I was let down by Kibaki. I was voting for somebody else in the election that followed. But there is a huge group of Kenyans that have always voted a certain way. There are people who have always supported Moi. Then they supported Kibaki. Then they supported Uhuru Kenyatta. Then they are now supporting Ruto. When you say that as the leadership, we should rethink, how about the voters? How are they supposed to rethink this issue?
Well, I agree. We, as voters as well, we have a responsibility. Now, I say this because a lot of voters, we still have the question of buying of people's IDs, buying of people's votes, because of the basic problem of being able to meet that basic need. Because someone is thinking, these leaders anyway, you'll vote for them, they'll go to parliament, we'll never see them until the next 5-year cycle. And it's only the Gen Zs that have come up and said, we want to recall you. And tongue in cheek, I think that's why the commission took so long. But before that, everyone knew you have to wait for the 5-year cycle. If you're not happy with your member of parliament, after 5 years, we are going to kick you out of office.
Okay.
And some counties and regions have faithfully done that. And Central is a good example that they really know how to clean out their leaders. But other areas, no. The same, we keep seeing the same leaders year in, year out.
Yeah.
As a voter, we have to make a conscious decision. After the kind of deaths we have seen, we need to now start pegging from your member of parliament, your MCA, what are they bringing to the table? Are they representing you or they are representing themselves?
Yeah.
Because we keep having that argument even on public participation, because they feel that we're already there to represent you. So we can collect your views, we'll take them under advisement, but we make the final decision. And that's why the tag pull and push on the role of public participation on this country has never been firmed up.
Yeah.
So the first thing is also educating the voter on the importance of that ballot that they hold in their hand and how much power that it has. Because if you can ensure that you vote for leaders that embody the challenges that you have and have that vision and understanding of what the people need, that they've been given an assignment, and if they don't do it, there's a recall that you can always recall them back, then we'll start actually seeing representation. I'm actually of the school of thought that, this amount of money that is given for roads and the rest should be totally removed, be given to the governors to develop, and let MPs follow, actually do what they are supposed to do, represent the people. Because when they have a lot of money to their disposal, they fail to focus on the purpose that they came to that office. Because this breakdown is there because Parliament is not playing their role in oversight of the executive. They're being seen by the people as an appenditure to the executive, because when we see people calling, petitioning their members of parliament and totally ignoring the voices of their people, it shows that they have a greater importance to something else. Why? Because they have greater benefits from that than you worrying about you as a voter. And why? Because if they can make money, they can come back to you in the next cycle, pay you for that vote, be it 100, 1,000, 2,000, you vote for them again, the cycle continues. But there needs to be proper civic education, because unfortunately last time there was a lot of apathy, particularly from our Gen Zs in voting. And now they see the importance of voting. And therefore, it's important that there's proper education towards it, and a lot of people understand why you ought to vote wisely. Don't give out your ID card. If someone wants to give you money, well, that is your money. You've paid taxes. So if they're giving you, they're just contributing back the taxes they collected. Take the money, but exercise your vote wisely.
Yeah. I am really itching to. You can give that a round of applause. I am really itching because we have Gen Zs in the house. Yeah, Shaka is there looking at me. There is Tamara there looking at me. So, but then I'm really itching to ask you about the Gen Z, but I'm not going to ask you that now. I want to go back to the person, Faith Odhiambo. Did you always want to be a lawyer?
Yes, I always wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
You know, in a Luo, you're either a lawyer, a doctor. Okay, then now this is the Gen Z era. It's different. Like my sister is a Gen Z, the youngest. How she has her own life and aesthetic and a way of doing things that are totally different. I honestly don't understand her. So I accept. We have middle grounds where we understand each other, like going for, if we go somewhere fun or a restaurant, there we will understand each other. But in these other things she tells me, I still have that old school thought, work hard, put in, then, and you will get results. It's different from them. Then they feel like, hey, don't give me stress. It's never that serious. But Faith has always wanted to be a lawyer. I would say either two things. I would have ever wanted to be a lawyer, professional swimmer.
Professional swimmer?
Yes. I swam in school for quite a bit, but my parents were very strict. School work comes first. So at some point, I had to stop painfully. But my dream for being a lawyer was something that was mine, not really my parents. My dad was a lecturer. My mom worked career auditor at KRA. So in fact, sometimes I used to wonder why I want to do law, because none of them, that was not their field. But from a young age, I would say, people think it's cliche, but to be honest, TV has an impact. I used to watch The Practice, and I really used to love Eleanor, Eugene Young, how they used to really argue out cases and the kind of work. And though they used to do criminal law, I don't do criminal law. But it's that passion and belief so strongly in what you're doing that you're able to put in the work and the hours. And, later on, seeing the Rengos, the Paul Muites and the likes, it really affirmed. But unfortunately, the legal practice is not these things you watch on TV. I think even Georgia Makamani was close to the actual maybe when you're arguing now constitutional affairs and you have the big bosses of who's who are sitting on that dock, that's the adrenaline that you end up feeling. Like that's as good as it gets. Or if you're doing an election petition and possible winners from both sides are sitting there, that's as crazy as it'll ever get for you. So for me, it's a passion that was clearly.
But where did you grow up? In Kisumu, Nairobi?
I grew up in Nairobi. My mom used to be a SACCO member in Hazina SACCO. So we used to live, in fact, now it's an office. I sometimes laugh when I just remember, we used to live in those L-shaped houses. Behind the SACCO used to rent those houses. So we lived in a small part of the L-shaped houses there. Because my mom was a big saver there, so she managed to get a house where we used to rent, before later on we lived under KRA houses, but which was in Gong Road.
Yeah.
But that's where we started.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then and the schooling, do you go to boarding school or?
Catholic school all through.
Yeah.
I started in Flora Hostel because it was just a walk across the road. Then Loreto.
Which part of Nairobi was that?
Just Ngong Road.
Okay.
Then Loreto Valley Road, down the road. Later on to Hospital Hill.
Yeah.
And then Our Lady of Mercy. Never been to boarding school.
All right.
Yeah.
Then to the University of
Catholic University.
Catholic University in Karen.
Yes. Yes. Now, actually, don't say Catholic University, a blessing from God.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. I didn't make it to UO and I didn't get the cutoff. In fact, I was so depressed. My dad just encouraged me and he said, don't lose hope. You know, when one door closes, a window opens. So I actually applied because the other option was to go to Moi University. But my parents were a bit, I'm the first girl, so they were not ready to separate, that I go to live away from them, especially my mom. My mom is a Luo warrior, so her girls must
a Luo
warrior. So her girls must grow in a certain way. So she has to be there to monitor you, monitoring and evaluation. So actually, we then applied to UON for business. I was supposed to do business and do accounts at the side. I actually did accounts. I was pretty depressed, but I said, no, I can't cry. It's my fault. I didn't work hard enough to get the requisite marks. And my parents were those ones, we are not going to look for schools for you. We are not going to do any such thing. If you want something, you work hard for it. If you don't, you settle for what you achieve. Then Catholic University opens their doors the very first lots. In fact, I was to report the same year to UON. They opened in March. I applied. I was accepted. So for me, Catholic University was a huge blessing.
Private university.
Yes, private university.
You loved it?
I loved it.
I want to go back before. I want to go back to the audience, but not yet. They have got questions to ask you, but I want to go to LSK right now, Law Society of Kenya. I've always thought that it is an organization that is there to take care of the affairs of the lawyers, correct?
Yes.
But then something interesting that it's now looking like a very, for lack of a better word, a very aggressive kind of. It has got. It's almost an activist kind of, for the people. It's fighting for the people right now. So I don't know. Do you think that that's how it was supposed to be, or
the Law Society first?
Yeah.
When people say activists, they use it as a negative term. The Law Society, under our Act, Section 4, provides that we advise the government, we advise Parliament, the judiciary as well.
Yeah.
And that's why you see the unique role, like we sit at the NCAJ Council, we present petitions to Parliament, and Parliament always gives a provision for the Law Society. We have joint caucuses that we do with them, and there are sometimes that we have roundtables with the head of state, because that is part of our mandate, or through the executive, his various cabinet secretaries. The Law Society has a place to play. Like even anti-money laundering, the Law Society goes to present with the government in terms of what we're doing in that space. Now, so it's not really activist, it's because we are playing our mandate as per the law. And so I want to clarify that whole story that we are entering into political questions. We don't. You'll not hear me supporting any individual candidate versus any other, or castigating an individual on political grounds, but on legal grounds solely. And so our role to defend the rule of law is to recognize and state the law as is, and defending people. And we have been very clear even through the demos. We defend those who have been involved in the demos because of the issue of trumped up charges, violation of their rights, that gets involved, and also them getting an opportunity to be heard fairly before the law. And we have realized if the Law Society does not get involved, that their rights at the end of the day gets affected. So it's not really an activist role as perceived, but we're actually doing what we are supposed to do. We have leaders who have shown their teeth over the years, Paul Mwite being one of the forefront when he was the Law Society Kenya chair, even Ahmed Nasir, the senior counsel when he was the chairperson, amongst others, even Pharaohs, the late Pharaohs Norji. So these are leaders that have cut their teeth through even the Law Society of Kenya, and some as presidents have been able to lead the society and also raising our voices through public interest. Now, it depends sometimes on the council. Some only react through presentations in parliament, some through public interest litigation, which we have been doing quite a bit, and also raising statements, but it's purely our mandate under the law. Yeah.
Okay. So then circling back to your mandate, could you articulate it properly about, I mean, what LSK does exactly? And because sometimes I feel like the government does not like your vibe. Like your government is like, you're disturbing us. Keep quiet. I mean, that's the vibe I'm getting from the government. I don't know whether you get that vibe.
Well, we do. But you see, as long as you stand for the rule of law, irrespective of which government is in office, will always make you uncomfortable. In the previous regime, I remember us filing a case against the land that was taken in KU. I think it was in KU. And even when the court agreed with the government and we hadn't gone on appeal, LSK said no, that's against the rule of law. And immediately the next government came in, they reversed that decision of the previous government. Apart from that, we have continued to see LSK thriving because as long as you stick to the narrow path of the rule of law, then you're doing your mandate, then there's nothing to worry about because history vindicates you. Even the judges that were not sworn in, at the end of the day, they were sworn in because that is what the law provides. There's no one who ought or should be deemed to be above the law. And that is the role of the Law Society, to continuously raise that. You see, we fail as a law society if we see violations of the law and yet we are quiet. So the question is, what legitimacy do we have if we do not state the law as is? Because remember, even before my presidency, we were on the streets demonstrating around the country because of the scathing remarks issued by the head of state against the judiciary and the judicial officers. So it's not activism, it's the reality of the role that the Law Society has done over time. And so it doesn't matter if Faith is sitting on this seat today, tomorrow there'll be somebody else sitting on this seat and they must or ought to perform their role. Well, some have different styles in how they ensure that they perform the role. Maybe they're able to negotiate more or sit in more boardroom discussions. Some are able to petition more in court, or some maybe have a more proactive parliament that works hand in hand with them, that they're not able to do a lot of heavy lifting. I think the reason also that LSK's voice is being seen stronger is because we've had a situation where our National Assembly is not taking its place, speaking loudly to the issues and the challenges, because things like budget monitoring, questioning allocation of resources, and challenging what is the sections being placed in a finance bill, that should be the primary role of the National Assembly. So others are carrying, and how would you say, power was a vacuum. And therefore, if Parliament is not taking up the role, you've seen even different civil societies coming up and raising concerns. Like LSK is not the best in dealing with budget monitoring evaluation, but you've seen organizations that have come out quite strongly doing that work because that is their core mandate and they're able to do it well. And so we are doing our mandate and we're able to do it well. But of course, we'd hope that the institutions that are supposed to create that balance between the executive, the judiciary, and parliament would be able to do their work, then LSK wouldn't have so much to do. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I want to, before I go to 6 degrees, I want to ask if there is anybody with a question, one or two, about her life, about what she is doing. Anyone?
You know, I thought people knew my character and knew who I was very well. But, you know, the more you rise in power, there are people who don't know you. And people change, even the ones you thought were your friends change in terms of the perspective of why at your age, why so many why at this particular point of your life. I would say that have always a covering in terms of have your support base, have your people that you're able to always go back to. Because, you know, the reality is, even as you sit on the table in a male-dominated room, they're not your friend. You know, I think as women, sometimes we have the social butterfly or the sociality to think that everyone has your best interests at heart. They don't. And so understand that you're in a room filled with interests. And so you align interests. So if my interests with yours, and I don't take it personally. And so when I'm tough on you, it's because I tell you, because you also, we don't align. So until you learn to align with me, then you're on your own. Because as well, when I will need them, they'll not be around. So men take things a bit different in terms of I know you only for this given period of time. And it's either we are aligning on a common goal or we are not. Otherwise, you're just acquaintances passing each other. So I always have my support base that you answer to and you need to explain to. The rest really don't matter, because if you keep listening to everything people say, a lot of women in high office in power, either it gets to your head or it can get you depressed. And so you must learn to shut out a lot of noise. And, you know, I hope you have a cycle of people that keep you grounded and who know and understand you and the challenges, and people that you can easily debrief with. You know, sometimes I just go with a lot of things that I do, because even I have mentors who sometimes tell me, even what you've done, I wouldn't even have thought of doing it, or it took a lot of courage for you to do this. But you have also others that have experienced and have gone through those situations that now tell you how to navigate and learn something, that the media is not your friend. Find allies in the media space, because you will need them. They can propel you and also bury you. So learn not to be, how to tamper with it, and I've learned to learn to investigate the person and their interest before I even accept interviews. Initially, I was more naive because I wasn't at that level. So really, even if you had an ulterior interest, there's nothing much you'd be seeking to gain from me. But the higher you go, learn to also investigate those people that you're talking to or are seeking to talk to you, and do your background, because you learn there are people who are financially paid to either get you in a compromising situation or try to compromise you or try to put you in a hard place. So investigate, have your allies who can tell you, don't talk to that person. That person doesn't have positive interest. And those who can organize now interviews for you or organize for you meetings, because you know they have your back and you have their back. In life, I think it's learning through the ropes, but have that core group of people who, as well as we'll be talking about the 6 degrees, who can connect you, who can protect you, who can walk with you and guide you and to navigate spaces. And because particularly if you're in the online space, you need people who can tell you, this is time to respond, this time let's watch and see the reaction, because I've had attacks that have not even needed to say a word. Kenyans have dealt with those attackers so well. It didn't need me to get into that foray, because some people try to drag you into a pigsty because they are good in that arena. You can say no to the invitation. You can watch them. You know, there's nothing as bad as trying to fight a woman, particularly for a man. So try and have those people in your cycle that can help and work with you. I normally say Dr. Nancy Baraza wouldn't have gone down the way she did if she had people surrounding her and protecting her and telling her how to react to that situation. Because the reality is that there's always a higher pedestal set for women, which I don't think is necessary. And we need to learn how to also cover one another. I might not like you, but I'll not go out of my way to attack you as a fellow woman. Why? Because of just that general solidarity, to understand that it even takes milestones and the journey someone must have fought to get herself there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for answering those questions. I think now we are going to go into questions of 6 degrees. I want to read something that was written by the brilliant Odhiambo Otieno. Odhiambo, did you write it or somebody else wrote it for you?
Well, I have a team.
Okay. The theory of 6 degrees of separation suggests that any two people in the world can be connected through a chain of at most 6 mutual acquaintances. Okay. And in his book, The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell deepens this idea through the law of the few, which explain how a small number of people play a disproportionately large role in connecting the society. And one key category is this in this law is the connector. So, Madam President, I want to ask you: do you know a moment in your life where one connection radically changed everything for you?
Yes, in my work, I'm a commercial lawyer and competition. I remember I went for a conference in Joburg, and so I was having a chat with one of the organizers. He's a professor at Joburg University. And then he tells me, there's this guy, he may be doing something in Kenya soon. Come, let me introduce the two of you. And it was just like a sporadic invite. Yeah, Faith, this is who, X, this is who. She does competition work in Kenya. What. He asked me, so what are your interests? Yeah, what work have you done? I explained, and I'm telling you, I've done like how many consultancies by virtue of that. We formed later a team, just sporadically. And then I got to meet so many other different experts from New York, Berlin, Sweden, London, that were all working in space, people who are working in, aero engineering, spectrum regulation, engineering, things that, first of all, like the first week we were coming up with that concept. I was like, what the what?
Yeah.
As a lawyer, you must learn to read. So I read a lot of reading to just quickly pick up on the technical parts. But for me, it opened, I've done now work in several areas in Africa that I wouldn't have had those to. I was even making fun that Communications Authority has never given me work as Faith, but I've gotten work from Communications Authority because of working with international firms. So I normally say that, others may block you, but God, who is God? Yes.
Yeah. Since I started talking to this same gentleman, Odhiambo Tieno, I've always just talked about networking. Odhiambo talks about strategic networking. And I want to build on what he's always telling me about strategic networking and ask you this question. How do you personally approach building diverse networks?
Well, I do it by, I say attend conferences, be it virtual or the physical conferences, but I prefer physical because you get to meet different people doing different spaces. Also have mentors that are worth being your mentor. One of my mentors tells me that when you're doing when I was doing my master's or PhD, she said, don't pick anyone to supervise. Not everyone should supervise you. She said, look for a supervisor who has the ability to network, who has connections in fundraising, connections with other universities, other professors, who can open doors for you in different places, that all they need to do is pick a call and opens for you doors in different areas. That's the kind of person that should be your supervisor. If all they have done is stay in the same town, live in the same area, never left their country, they cannot be your supervisor. So, you may think it's something small, but it really makes an impact, because there are people who, when you put their names down, people already, their face light up. They're like, oh, this person, you've worked with this person. This person is someone I know. And if you've worked with them, it's like already a door opener, even before the door opens for you. I say that because even one of my mentors, she sometimes used to drag me along like her little handbag. But at that particular time, there was a day she took me to, was it like a donor round table? And I didn't know anyone. And it was room of high dignitaries. And I was telling her, surely, people will wonder how I came. She said, don't worry, you're with me. So I ended up meeting the head of the East Africa Ford Foundation then, who ended up now being one of my current mentors.
Yeah.
Because of that introduction and saying that she mentors me, he was interested now in knowing who I am, what I'm doing, what I'm pursuing, and the things I was doing. And we kept from that day a friendship, and he became now one of my current mentors. Yeah.
Do you think that we should have deep relationships with a few, or broaden our reach? This one, or just zoom in?
As much as you can have many, but you won't really have many. You need to have few people in your corner that you know you well and you know them well. And remember, relationship is two-way. It's not just sponging. You need to be able to also reciprocate, because now we have the 360 mentoring. Because someone gets, it's overburdening to be somebody who just sponges and you bring nothing to the table. My mentor, she says she enjoys part of, I'll just say her name, Professor Mbote. She says that she enjoys being with young people and mentoring because they keep her young. So our mentorship is not just...
I hope that you are enjoying that episode, people of the internet. Everybody says there is no job, and that is true. Also, that was me 10 years ago. The problem is that everybody is trying to get a job in their own town, in their own city, in their marketplace. They ask friends for jobs, mothers call uncles, uncles call fathers, but there are no jobs, right? Let me tell you what no one is telling you. Jobs migrated online. What I actually mean is there are many, many jobs around the world, and there is no one to do them. I have worked for a long time online, I think more than 10 years. I work for Americans, I work for Europeans, I work for the Chinese, the Australian, Canadians, the Ugandans, name all of them. And last year, I had a eureka moment. I said to myself, you know what? I should compile what I have been doing for the last 15 years. So in 2024, I wrote a book called Goldmine, 18 Side Hustles for Africans. And it sold a lot of copies. In fact, I was going for, sometimes I was receiving 500 orders in a day. In 2025, something happened. AI came. I think in 2025, AI came. AI came in 2024, but in 2025, it is here with us. And people say AI is taking away their jobs. And for me, I'll say false. There are actually AI jobs. Now, mimi ni nani? I created more jobs. We now have in my book 25 online and offline
side hustles that you can do anywhere in the world, whether you are in the village, whether you are in your small town, whether you're in a marketplace, whether you are in your house, you can do them. In this powerful volume 2, I share 25 new actionable online hustles specifically researched and tailored for Africans. My new book provides clear step-by-step guidance, drawing from my extensive experience and research, including the mistakes I have made and lessons I have learned over 15 years in this online job market. You can become an executive assistant to busy folks in Europe, America, and Canada. You can also get paid for tasks like watching videos and taking online surveys. There are many of them, and they're in my book. You can also build a business as a virtual assistant, start an e-commerce without a shilling. You can also become an affiliate marketer or an online English tutor. And you can also do tens of AI jobs, and they're all in these books. If you have a job, that is fine, but I know around you there are so many people that are always looking for jobs and at home watching Netflix. Buy this book for your brother, for your sister, for your mother, cousin, husband, who is back at home all day, all night watching Netflix. Okay? Buy it for your friends. That friend who is always asking you for cash, you can buy this book for them. All the information is in the description below. You can also inbox me, you can WhatsApp me, or you can go to my website, which is oduorjagero.co.ke. The book is only 1,000 Kenya shillings. Or if you're anywhere around the world, the book is $10. So thank you very much. Back to programming.
The strict of we sit together and take coffee and discuss. We can go for a HIT exercise gym session. She'll invite me to her gym, which is crazy for a HIT session. HIT means the HIIT, and you know those crazy exercises, people are jumping. And we'll be talking at the end, at the beginning, or at the end, when you're trying to catch your breath, and you'd catch up on so many things, and she'll tell you she's organizing this, you're doing this, how can we put this together? She will connect you to different other people. And having now other mentors that some you can have lunch with, have coffee, some you can be having a breakdown moment, and you can call and they pray with you and give you some guidance or an explanation, or remind you of your center when you feel things are getting too heavy for you. So you need a few people that you can keep in that relationship, because you know relationships involves vulnerability. You know, you truly don't have a relationship unless you can be vulnerable to them and they can be vulnerable to you. And in today's world, you can't be vulnerable to everybody. You can't allow everyone in, because in the Bible it said, guard your heart above all things, because it affects everything that you do. And so the few people that you allow into that space, ensure you have vetted them. There are people who care about you. There are people that are vulnerable to you. So it's like you have tied each other to an extent that they also have something to lose from that relationship. So I think it's, you focus on a few. It's nice to know many people, but have connecting friendships. There are people there are friends who will carry you to meetings because they are telling you there's someone you must meet, and you'll be like, I'm tired, and they're saying there's a reason you must meet them, because they are the cornerstone to opening for you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doors. But the person who is in doing that for you is the person you're vulnerable to, because they are thinking what's in your best interest, and you as well would be thinking, how can I also help and support my mentor or my connector or this close person of mine to other opportunities. Then you'll see the relationships grow.
Yeah. We are winding down now. If you have a question, Odhiambo, correct? So if you have a question or two, please get ready. We're just winding down with one or two questions, and then we can end this interview. When we talk about networking, Madam President, I don't know, it looks to me like you are only trying to network with people that can give you some business, some kind of lead, later on in life. So it could be very selfish sometimes. Do you think that you should only network with people with whom you expect something back?
Well, that's a tricky question. Okay. Others are just friendships. You know, you have your normal friendships. You have, to be honest, I honestly believe at this age I am in, there are very few new people who will be my friends. There are very few. I'm not saying they are not, but there are very few. Why? Because like I have my girls and even my boys who are my ride or dies, but we've known each other for years. Like when we started in the trenches, you know, when we were wearing those flare kind of jeans and when you thought you were the coolest kid, when you look at those photos now, you just hide them somewhere. Those are the kind of friends, or we were running together, climbing trees, and we have grown up together. Those are the friendships that there's no expectation from each other. Like we are so close, there's really no expectation. We hold each other accountable in terms of, you know, your goals, your dreams, supporting each other in life, marriage, children, complications that arise in life, you know, sickness, losing parents. But those are friendships. And so I have friends that are just friends. But in terms of connect, you know, when you're choosing strategic people, it's, yes, it can be seen as selfish, but if you also you're also benefiting, then it's a symbiotic relationship, because that person is connecting to you because you can connect them to also several other doors. You're connecting to them because they can connect you to several other doors. And so I'm not saying don't have your friendships, but Gen Z is bado unafall friendships. Sisi tumesha, I think I know my friends and I can count them in the palm of my hand.
Yeah.
So I'm not really like now searching for friends, like I need a friend. I know my friends. But for connections, I am still searching for new connections. And it is through the people that you work together with that you're able to identify who can help me, because life goals keep changing. And I can tell you for sure, even me getting to where I was, I met so many connectors, or I met various people, or there are individuals in my life that helped connect the dots. And you know, you see like the point that lights the dots in different places. And so you need those people in your life. You'll always be told the key to these doors is this one person. So it's this friend of yours who's going to walk you through round until we get to that key. But you still need those connections. And you need to meet them, you need to build a relationship, because people are still personal. In this day of AI, in this day of technology, people think that the phone, putting it in front of your face, means the world. It's personal connections that mean the world. Because people still need friendships and relationships, and people only trust. Particularly, I would say certain human beings are like roots. You know, the way Nation newspaper used to have its root like a patent, that if you want to distribute, you'd pay Nation to distribute your papers for you, because it's the only one that had built the chain of distribution. Until technology disrupted everything, our Gen Zs are not looking at hard newspapers. You can get it online, subscribe. Who is looking for physical newspapers? But our parents still do that. I still read physical newspapers. But it disrupted the route to a point that they have also had to succumb to going online. However, there are still certain old routes that can only be opened by physical connections. And so you must be alive to know that there are people that can help you move to those connections, but you have to be available to meet them, to connect to them. Online helps you connect. Maybe you can connect to people in the US, in different spaces around the world. But that's why people still meet, and I think people are still conned in these online dating sites, because you still want to go and meet. At the end of the day, you know, you're never happy as a human being without having really put the connecting touch towards that person.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, okay, on mentorship, Yes, I agree. Depending on the profession that you're doing, they try and organize. Even LSK, we try and organize for mentorship sessions. We have for young lawyers mentorships that we are continuously trying to work on. And sometimes we even call judges to come and speak to young lawyers, keep their journeys, in-house lawyers, wherever the case may be. I really don't recruit like mentees. I don't have like a recruitment program. I mentor like those I work with a lot. So if there's a project or something is going on, I pick a few people that I feel have potential or that I note along the way, like in my campaign team, or even those who we work with in different spaces, because that's ideally my way of identifying talent. But when I was a lecturer, I could identify students based on my interaction with you. I know a struggling student, I know a student that needs some help and direction, and some come to you and actually ask that I'm struggling with this and this, could you work with me? I agree. Normally, sometimes this life I'm living right now is a bit hard. I would not say we have the normal mentorships. I would do either we have once in a while if meetups, or we're engaging in something that is continuous, then you'll be able to see a regular face of mine. Someone even sometimes in the office they don't see so regularly, but that's my way of doing it now. But rather ideally how I would do it is we have regular meetings that we can see. I can ask you some hard questions. What are you doing with your life? How are you focusing on this? These are your personal goals. What are you doing towards achieving them? When did you set them down? And things like that, so I can be more in your space. I have mentors who are on my space like this, so I've picked up that way of mentoring that is also in your space. I feel like it works because it makes you uncomfortable from sitting in comfortable spaces, because once you become comfortable you stagnate. You're not doing anything to improve yourself, you're not doing anything to better your life, which is something that you must push not to be comfortable. There was another one on rejection of mentorship. I don't know how you deal with with rejection of a mentor, but take it this way. If your mentor rejects you, it means that, or the person you wanted to mentor you rejects you, it means that your goals don't align. And maybe the problem is not yours, sometimes it could be them and where they are in life, and probably seeing that the way you're looking at him would be where he was 30 years ago, and that's not the person that he is anymore. And so don't take it badly. Just take it, well, one day you will meet in a different space. You will meet others who will be able to connect you. Now, how do you do this? I don't know if you had good relationship with your previous professors, and you can start there, or people that you're working with that are senior in your organization. And I say this is that look for people who have gone much, much further than you. Your peers make you comfortable. That's not what you want. Now, you work in state law office, so look for someone senior in DPP, in parliament, in even where you work, even in practice. Just pick random people who do interesting work. And sometimes you can learn something even from spaces that people think you can't learn from. So look for that kind of class of people, because they have gone through the ranks. They will tell you the way how to move through growing in your line of area. If you want to change, what must you do to change, and what experiences they have had, and how best you can use that personal experience to build you to the next level. So don't take it negatively, or don't let it make you feel down. Just take it like our values were not aligning at that particular point. In terms of 6 impactful decisions, oh my gosh, I've grown. So I think 6 are too little in terms of impactful decisions. But I would say that my decision to do law, I started doing law and I was working at a bank, and actually was saving to pay my school fees, because I think someone can think you have a rosy life, but something my mom taught me is independence. My dad would be the sweet one. My late dad was my BFF rather than a dad. So we could get money from him. But my mom was nothing like that. In fact, if she gives you money, it's an IOU. And when are you paying it back? And she was serious. You have to pay back that money. And it's going to be as a matter of a rule. When is that money coming back? I'm only giving you this amount of money. You better use it for the purpose I've given you. I want to see evidence you've used it for the purpose, and you must ensure you return that money. It taught us to be also frugal, that you can't just use money the way you want. And when we started working, we were contributing to the house expenses. And when I wanted to move out, we were told, girls, hey, it was another tough fight. So, but in essence, there was always cut responsibility. And I remember that decision of quitting to go full school. My mom was very upset that I could do both. And I told her, I'm focusing on finishing KSL, and I'm not going to do both. And so it was a fight, but thank God I had the money to pay the law school. So I was able to do as I want. Later on, she was the #1 celebrant when I finished. But also the decision to go and study abroad, for me, doing my master's outside was good because it gave me a sense of independence, just learning to be alone. And I say learning to be alone is also good because when you are alone and scared, you understand the importance of God, because it's you making your own decisions, you standing for yourself, you being personally responsible, because also you're feeling the weight of not disappointing others and being, one of the big ones. I don't know how discipline used to be done at your homes, but my big brother and I used to get punished for everyone's misdemeanors. So the punishment starts with him, then me, then it follows the line. So in terms of even that weight of responsibility, the two of us were like, if we fail, you set the stage for everyone else. So I would say the rest have been really God also working with me, or God supporting or pushing, opening the way in terms of that decision making. In terms of balancing, I'm not going to lie to you, you really don't balance. It's harder, but you must make personal choices. Like me agreeing to this took him cornering me because I'd said no and no and no and no. I kept saying no. Why? Because people don't understand when I say no, because I want to put my child to bed and I want to read the storybook. And as much as you may think that I'm selfish, but I'm selfish because those are the things my child is going to remember. My child is going to remember whether I've read Little Red Riding Hood or Peter Pan or, Peter the Rabbit. He's not going to remember all these things. So if I don't make that time and purposely I say no to certain things, even very early morning events nowadays, because I want to drop him to school, because I realized if I'm not, as much as he'll be with the dad, we get to talk in the morning, we can sing along together, and maybe that's the time he sort of opens up to tell me what happened in school. And so if I'm not a purposeful mother, I also feel in that arena. And unfortunately, I'm still the mom in this situation. So when he's sick, everything is cancelled, and it doesn't matter. But there are days that, I have to be more in LSK because also people need me. And so that's why I take in the time that I am able to focus on the family, because I also have a husband who expects to have a wife. LSK is just a period, but him is forever. So you also have to work on that relationship, and marriage is a continuous relationship building. So also you must ensure the respect is maintained and the relationship and love must be worked on. It's not the magic that people think. You have to keep working on it and investing in it. So yeah, and also you must take care of yourself. So I work out. I love working out. So I do gym, I do long walks. Once a week I try to hit 21 Ks or 15 Ks. So it's my way of also thinking. I think a lot. So it's a way of me thinking, but also mentally debriefing, because I get stressed and I don't notice until I'm having either the constant headaches or I get sick. So that's my way of also debriefing and removing stress by working out. So in terms of decline of anarchy, let me merge it with my legacy. I think the honest truth is that as Gen Zs, you need to listen, and the government needs to listen. Now we have two sides of the divide, one pushed by ego, one pushed by anger. We must come together and listen to each other. Gen Zs must set what are their minimum values or their minimum requirements, and government must set a clear, fair agenda in terms of dealing with injustice, respecting the rule of law, and also delivering service to the people. You know, unless we have this honest dialogue, and when I say also the dialogue, we need to have honesty in the different organizations that ideally have brought the country together. Civil society, in terms of us spreading peace, and also religious leaders to take their responsible role of supporting peace and justice, and also demanding justice. Because there cannot be peace if there's injustice. And when there's no justice, there cannot be peace. And so as a country, my legacy I would want is to create civic education in terms of what are people's rights, understand those rights, and secondly, how can we realize those rights without getting to an extent that we have to kill each other. You know, you can express yourself, you can raise your voice without damage to property. And also, as Gen Zs have shown, they have the power. You can record, share that information for those who are destroying property. And that's when the country coalesces also around you. And for me is also to dispel this notion that is creeping, that scares me, of tribalism. Tribalism does nothing but create more anger and create more anarchy, because we've never seen a revolution pegged on tribalism that has worked. We'll only have bloodshed. And that is my fear, and that's a legacy that I hope that we can work with others to ensure that we don't let that happen. Because it's unfortunate that our Gen Zs that have taught us about tribeless, leaderless, cross-cutting against any division of class, a narrative of tribalism is being weaponized into their minds against that. And we must shun that, because that is the reason that people will start killing each other. If you remember post-election violence, it was hate that you could not account for. You know, because, you know, even the ones that weren't caught, the question is, what trauma are they even living with, having bashed someone's head, cut out someone's hand? You know, you're living in a state of trauma that you must pretend now things are normal after going through that, and yet things are not normal. We must protect this generation from that happening, and the alphas, by shunning away tribalism. Let us deal with the issues one by one. Let's hold the government accountable through channels under the law. I'm not saying picketing is not a channel, it is a channel. But let us identify those who are destroying property to dispel that it is Gen Zs that are involved, and also dispel this tribal notion. People sharing propaganda on supporting tribalism, we must call them out as well. Gen Zs have taught us quite a bit. Let us learn from that. Today I was in a talk and one of the speakers, Christine, was talking about how millennials, at some point during marriage, you have been culturalized into tribalism without knowing. Because of ratios, because of marriages, you come at the first hand to that tipping point where tribalism gets you. You're told, oh, in our culture, you know us, we don't do this, we don't marry from this place. That's when subconsciously tribalism is introduced into your mind. The Gen Zs have not reached that stage, because I remember they were saying they only fear pregnancy and marriage. So they have not gotten to that level. So, so they have not gotten to that level. But with that consciousness that they have helped renew in us, we must shun it, because we cannot have development in this country if we are going back to the old nuances of tribalism. We must raise up against that. That's when we can talk about economic development, and we can start asking hard questions, how our money is used, where it's used, and the way it's used, and professionals to start using their knowledge to give alternative options. Because if you're telling government no to this policy, no to this legislation, give a counter, because you are experts that work in different areas. And by coming together and continue to give that alternative voice, it's not about making just noise. It's identifying the problem, we are making the noise, and we are giving solutions. So that there's no option of saying we are not bringing anything to the table. It's high time that we learn to stop the anarchy. How can Gen Zs get a seat, pull their seat to the table by becoming from leaderless to leaders? If you don't want certain leaders, take that bold step and be leaders. We saw, was it in Kikuyu, the young man who campaigned around to become a member of parliament. He didn't even have a car or bus fare to get to Nairobi to be sworn in. So if that is possible, why not each and every one of you who has a vision that they want to ensure that they see? Let's shun the kind of structures of politics that we know, and believe people should stop looking for money to the ballot and put in leaders that can actually make changes. Then we change anarchy from this country. Let's go back to the Kenya that was united, irrespective of our differences, irrespective of our tribal challenges. We remained united as one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation. It was lovely. You guys loved it, right? Yes. So I would ask us to give a round of applause for Madam President, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right. Okay, I would ask the MC now to pick it from here.